You work for $30 an hour, but you only get paid $3. You're staring at a number right now that you think defines your worth. Maybe it is $65,000 a year. Maybe it is $31 an hour. You negotiated for it. You put it on your resume. You tell your parents about it at Thanksgiving. But that number is a lie. And the worst part, you're the one who keeps believing it. So you do what every exhausted person does. You open the delivery app. Thai food, pizza, burgers, doesn't matter. It is $45 with tip. You tell yourself you earned it, you worked hard, you deserve this small comfort. And you're right, you did work hard. But here is the part nobody tells you, that $45 isn't just $45. It is a symptom. It is a tax. It is the cost of being too drained to function like a human being. Because here is the math nobody wants you to do. You think you are making $30 an hour. That is what the offer letter said, but that is not your real wage. That is your theoretical wage, the number that exists in a fantasy world, where your job doesn't cost you anything to perform. In the real world, your job is expensive. The gas you burn driving home tonight, that is a cost. The beer you're about to crack open to stop your hands from shaking? The nice shirt you wore to the office? Because showing up in a hoodie would get you a conversation with HR. The therapy bills that pile up because you are spending 45 hours a week doing something that makes you want to drive into a lake? And when you add up all those costs, when you subtract them from your paycheck, when you divide what is left by the total hours you actually give to this job, including the commute, including the time you spend getting ready, including the mental energy you burn thinking about work while you're supposed to be relaxing, the number you get is terrifying. You are not making $30 an hour. You might be making $8. You might be working for less than the teenager who bags your groceries. And the system is counting on you being too tired, too busy, too distracted by that delivery app to ever sit down and do this math. This is the fraud, not the one committed by your employer, the one you commit against yourself every time you look at your gross salary and think that is what you're worth. It is not. It is not even close. Companies that only count revenue without tracking expenses don't stay in business long. A bakery selling $1 million of bread while spending $1 million on flour and rent is worth exactly zero. But when we calculate our own worth, we commit that same fatal accounting error. We stare at the salary line and call it done. We never audit the cost of goods sold, and the product being sold is you. Let us dissect an average worker. Call him James. He makes $31 an hour. Respectable number, livable theoretically, but that figure is a lie. The moment it appears on the offer letter, before James even sees that money, the government extracts its share. Federal tax, state tax, FICA. The $31 gets shaved down to roughly $24. That is the obvious amputation. Everyone knows that math. But now we enter the territory most people never calculate. The expenses that exist solely because James has this job. Start with access costs. James cannot teleport to his workplace. The average American burns thousands of dollars annually just purchasing the right to show up. Gas, vehicle, maintenance, insurance, depreciation on a car. That exists primarily to shuttle him to the place where he generates income. 30 minutes each way, 5 days a week. If we being conservative, that is $4,000 a year. If he takes public transit, it is the monthly pass. Either way, he is paying for the privilege of being employed. Then there is the appearance tax. James cannot arrive in pajamas. He needs business casual clothing, dry cleaning, the professional costume required to be taken seriously. These garments serve no purpose outside the context of his employment. They are a uniform he must purchase himself. Now we hit the convenience bleed. Because James occupies a chair from 9 to 5, he cannot be home. He buys lunch twice a week because meal prep requires time he no longer owns. He buys the $5 coffee because his body needs chemical assistance to endure the 2 p.m. meeting. He pays someone to walk his dog because he isn't there to open the door. Every single one of these expenses evaporates if the job disappears. He is spending money to work. And then we arrive at the darkest line item, decompression spending. This is the money James hemorrhages trying to numb the psychological damage the job inflicts. The Friday night bar tab, the impulsive vacation booked in desperation. The therapy sessions, the retail therapy, the money spent to repair what the work breaks. This isn't discretionary spending. This is maintenance cost. On a machine being run past its limits, HR's paperwork says James works 40 hours a week. That document is a legal fiction. James wakes up at 6:30 to shower, shave, and make himself presentable. For people who don't care if he lives or dies, that is 30 minutes of unpaid labor. He drives 30 minutes each way through traffic, making him grip the steering wheel until his knuckles go white. That is an hour of unpaid labor. His lunch break is technically off the clock, but he can't leave the building. He can't go home and take a nap. He can't play with his kids. He is held captive in the break room, scrolling his phone, waiting for permission to resume selling his time. Then there is the decompression period when he gets home. 30 minutes of staring at nothing, venting to his partner, checking emails on his phone because his boss might need something. All of this is shadow work. Time that belongs to the job, but the job refuses to pay for. Added up, the grooming, the commuting, the captive lunch, the decompression, and the Sunday night anxiety. James isn't working 40 hours a week. He dedicates 55 to 60 hours of his finite life to his employment. Now watch what happens when we do the real math. Take that whittled down net income of $35,000, divide it by the true hours, nearly 3,000 hours a year. That $31 an hour evaporates like steam. Suddenly, James is making $11 an hour, or $8. In some high-stress scenarios, he is mathematically earning less than the teenager flipping burgers down the street, because that teenager walks to work, wears a provided uniform, and leaves his stress at the fry station when his shift ends. I know this sounds like the kind of realization that makes you want to walk into the ocean. You might be thinking, great, I'm broke. My job is harvesting me, and my life is a scam. But here is why we do this math. Not to make you depressed, to make you angry, and more importantly, to make you efficient. Because once you know your real hourly wage, your entire relationship with money changes. This is the concept from your money or your life. And it is the only antidote to being broke that actually works. Because once you translate dollars into hours of life, your brain can't unsee it. You can't go back to thinking money is just money. It becomes life energy, and you start asking a question you've never asked before. Is this thing worth that many hours of suffering? The answer is almost always no. This math also exposes something most people never see: the trap of the golden handcuffs. You get promoted, they offer you $10,000 more a year. You feel like you won. But now you're working late every night. So you order takeout instead of cooking. You need nicer suits. You need a second car because your schedule doesn't align with carpooling anymore. Your stress goes through the roof. So you book a more expensive vacation to recover. When you run the numbers again, your real hourly wage didn't go up. It went down. You're processing more money through your bank account, but you're keeping less of it, and you're giving up more of your life to get it. There is also a hidden cost that is even more terrifying. Every dollar you spend on the costs of working, the commute, the convenience food, the clothes you only wear to the office, that is a dollar you're stealing from your future self. that $5 coffee every morning because you're too exhausted to make it at home. Over 30 years invested at 7%. That is nearly $200,000. You're not drinking coffee, you're drinking your retirement. You are drinking your freedom. The system depends on you being too tired to do this math. They need you to stay a passive consumer of your own life. They want you to think you make good money, so you keep signing the lease on the luxury apartment, financing the car, buying the things that make the job tolerable, which keeps you trapped. You need the job to pay for things, the things you bought just to survive the job. So, what do you actually do? The answer isn't quit tomorrow and live in a van, because that is simply not realistic. You have bills, you have responsibilities. The solution is smaller, more mechanical, more boring, but it works. You calculate your real hourly wage. Take your actual take-home pay after taxes. Subtract every cost that only exists because of your job. Parking, lunches you buy because you lack time to pack, the clothes, the childcare, and the stress purchases. Then divide what is left by the total hours you give to that job. Not just the hours you're clocked in, the hours you spend getting ready, the commute, the time you spend thinking about work when you're not there, the time it takes you to decompress after. This is how you start building the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is where your freedom lives. And once you see your real hourly wage, you stop optimizing for income. You start optimizing for something else entirely. You want to negotiate working from home 2 days a week. That is not about comfort. That is about reclaiming 2 hours of commute time and $10 of gas per day. You just gave yourself a raise without your employer paying you a single additional cent. You want to meal prep on Sunday? That is not about health. That is about lowering your cost of goods sold. Every dollar you stop hemorrhaging on work-related expenses is a dollar of pure optionality, a dollar that doesn't require you to show up on Monday. The shift here is psychological. You have to start treating your labor like a business. A smart business owner doesn't just chase revenue. They optimize for margin. Your life is the business. Your margin is the time and money left over to actually be a human being. If you're making $100,000 a year, but spending $95,000 and working 80 hours a week to generate it, you are a failing enterprise. You are Enron. You are structurally insolvent. But if you make $50,000, spend $20,000, and work 30 hours a week, you are a highly profitable, resilient operation. You're winning. We are living in an era where time is becoming the ultimate currency. The rich are buying time. The poor are selling it at a discount. Don't sell your time at a discount. Audit your life. Cut the vampire costs associated with your job. Start building a gap between your income and your expenses, because that gap is where your freedom lives. Not wealth, not status, freedom. If this video made you rethink your paycheck, share it with a coworker who looks tired. We're all in this same trap, but we can math our way out of it together.